Okay, so we're in Bluehost now and we're going to install WordPress the easy way, the one-click way, which is not the way I recommend, but if you want to do it like this, it's perfectly fine. So let's log in, and now we're logged into our account on Bluehost. Let's navigate towards cPanel. And here is the cPanel on our Bluehost hosting account. It's very likely that you'll have a cPanel on your hosting account. If you do, it might look different to this. It will have icons and different sections for the icons. But what I want you to look for is WordPress one-click install. But on this particular case, it's right at the top here. We've got one-click installs. We've also got install WordPress. I shouldn't think it matters which one you click. Okay, so we've gone into one-click installs, and here you can see you can install all sorts of content management systems, not just WordPress. But we're going to click on WordPress, and version 4.5 is the most recent. You're offered services that will cost you money to do it, but of course we're not going to do that. We're going to install for free here. Now you have to select the domain you want to install WordPress on, and obviously that will depend on the domains that you have pointing to the hosting account you have. You have an option to put that into a directory, so you could put it into yourdomain.com/blog if you wanted to, but we're going to leave that blank because we're going to install WordPress on the domain, so WordPress does everything when you arrive at that homepage on the domain. Okay, so we've checked the domain, everything's all ready to go. We've read the terms and conditions. I'm going to check show advanced options there. Now here you don't need to name this here at the moment. You can if you want, but you'll be able to change that in the WordPress settings anyway. Now this username and password, they've generated the username of the Gmail. I would advise you very definitely to change that into something that only you would remember. And there's the password. This information, the username and password, is incredibly important. This is some information that you don't want anyone getting their hands on, and the password and the username should be very difficult to remember. I'm showing you these because I am going to delete this install after I've finished installing it and start again. If you see the admin username and password, then you must take a copy of them. So I've copied those and install now. Now it says the install is underway there, and along goes that green progress bar, and it really shouldn't take too long. They're trying to sell you themes here. I would ignore all of that because we'll be showing you how to add your themes and how to use free themes later on in the course. And now it's saying the install is complete. So here is the website that we installed WordPress on, and remember we had a Bluehost holding page. Let's refresh, and it's actually installed a holding page. This is another reason why I don't like doing one-click installs. They install all sorts of stuff that you don't need. I'm going to Command or Control click on admin login, and this is logging into the back end. You can always log into the WordPress backend by adding wp login.php onto the end of your domain. You could also go wp-admin, but in the username and password we're going to paste the username and password that we specified just before we did the one-click install. We've just pasted them in. Let's log in, and this is the back end of the WordPress website, and all WordPress websites will look similar to this. Right at the top there you can see you are currently displaying a coming soon page. Once you're ready to launch your site, click here. Well, I'm going to do that now so I can show you what WordPress looks like properly when you install it manually. So now we'll refresh this page again, and this is more what you're likely to see when you first install WordPress on your site. And it's, as you can see, a very blank template with one post called Hello World and there's one page as well, which we can't see at the moment, but it's very little on it. But this is the basics of WordPress, and we've got a taskbar at the top here, which I'll talk to you about as well. But the point is, it's a very empty site. Now, many people get hung up about putting a holding page for their site, thinking that it's unprofessional to show a site like this that's half finished or not even started. I disagree, because the point of websites is that nobody will ever come to this website until it starts to have some decent content on it. So I really don't worry about putting up holding pages. But if you wanted to put up a holding page, you could find a plugin to do it for you. Now, we'll be talking about plugins later, but let's just go straight to plugins now, because there's a few things I want to show you. First, let me explain what a plugin is. A plugin is another piece of software that somebody has written to add functionality to WordPress. And WordPress has tens or hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of plugins that people have written. Most of them are free to use, and some of them are incredibly helpful, and some of them you have to pay to use. But the two plugins that come with WordPress are only the top two. Akismet, which protects you against spam, and Hello Dolly, which actually doesn't do anything particularly useful. It just generates some lyrics from a famous song sung by Louis Armstrong on the back end. But then the creators of WordPress were big jazz fans. However, the next two plugins you see, these are two plugins that Bluehost has added. One is Mojo Marketplace, which is something that will get you to buy widgets and themes and plugins, which you don't really need. You can quite easily make your mind up on that sort of thing yourself by Googling them or going to the WordPress site where you'll find plugins and themes. And Jetpack by WordPress.com, which is a very powerful plugin and a very useful plugin, but it also might make your site work slower because it's very memory intensive. So I'm going to get rid of those two by selecting them both with the checkboxes to the left there. And you can't delete an activated plugin, so you'll have to deactivate them first. And now you see they're deactivated. They've got a sort of white background instead of the blue background. And now we're going to delete the plugins. So if you did want to install WordPress with one click, I would advise you to delete extra plugins that are added with it. The whole problem with one-click installs is that they do tend to add little extras that may well be a security weakness in your site going forward. Now, WordPress is a very solid system. It's updated 4 times a year on average, and it has a huge, great community testing the newest versions to make sure that they are as secure as they can be. However, the plugins and themes that you add onto it, if they are less common and less famous, then they will of course be less secure. So I would be very careful with one-click installs for that reason. In the next video, I will show you how to install WordPress manually. My name's Rob Cubbon. I'll look forward to that.